Truck Talk Media.
C10 Talk, episode 330. How about Key Savvy? What the hell's Key Savvy? Well, we've got Andrew Crowell. He's going to tell us all about it. Hold on. Here we go.
But in terms of the product itself, the number one challenge is moving money fast. There are some counterfeit concerns and things like that. It's hard to get cash nowadays, like in this quantity, especially a lot of people use online banks now. So it's harder to kind of do it the old way. Cashier's checks are really easy to forge, but that's kind of like what we're competing with from a transfer of funds standpoint. And so that's challenging, right? So we've invested a lot of R&D into building our own payment rails so that we can move money really, really fast, get sellers paid fast, help buyers pay on weekends when they want to be doing these types of transactions, right? Banks are closed. So like making sure that we can provide a really good customer experience for what is a really complicated transaction.
Damn, son. Auto Metal Direct, the leader in premium OE-style restoration parts for classic Chevy and GMC trucks. If you're building a C10, a K10, maybe a square body, AMD manufactures high-quality sheet metal, trim, glass, and restoration components designed for OE-style fit and factory-correct body lines. These aren't generic panels. AMD develops its own tooling using modern manufacturing processes to deliver consistent stampings and proper gauge steel, built for builders who care about doing it right. Damn, son. Whether you're restoring a 67 to 72, bringing a square body back from the brink, or finishing off a clean driver, AMD supports the trucks and the community we talk about here on the pod. Check them out at autometaldirect.com and follow them on social media to see product features, installs, and behind-the-scenes manufacturing content. Auto Metal Direct, investing in the trucks and the people that make this community so damn awesome.
Let me tell you what Melbourne Toast is packing right here. All right, we've got 411 posi track out back, 750 double pumper, Edelbrock intakes, scored over 30, 11-1 pop-up pistons, turbojet, 390 horsepower. We're talking some bucking muscle.
What does that do? Did that blow your mind? That just happened.
Welcome to C10 Talk, your C10 truck podcast.
And now I have a chance to be the best, maybe the best in the world.
My old man is a television repairman. Ultimate set of tools. I can fix it.
I said I got 50 cents in that jukebox, and all I can hear is your mouth clapping. You hear that?
Here's your host, Ronnie Welch.
$330 coming at ya. How about $329? Finally got some Ben Napier out. Sat on that, and I hope you guys are enjoying that. Definitely feels good to get that one out to you guys. I don't like sitting on the pod, so I wanted to make that one, or I guess get that one out, because I've never really done that before. Sat so long. Getting ready to head up to Moab, Utah for the second annual Red Rock Retreat tomorrow. If you guys didn't see my Instagram post, Chase has got some really cool challenge coins. They're $100, and if you're headed up, you can buy one. You get the challenge coin, you get $50 or 50 raffle tickets, and those raffle tickets go to some cool prizes. Some of the bigger prizes are going to be $1,000 towards Delta airfare, $1,000 towards a Carnival cruise line, and they've got some bigger prizes. I think like a tailgate bench is one of them, a Traeger grill, and what was the other one? Oh, a toolbox. So a lot going on. Looking forward. The first one last year was a really good show. So I know he's got sold out capacity. It's a smaller venue, so it's not one of those things where he can just pack it in. Downtown Moab, we'll go for a little drive Friday night, which is really epic, and then come back, hang out. Saturday we'll hit the show. So looking forward to getting up to that one. Really just a busy time for us in the show world. Just going to rip through some of these really quick and keep you guys abreast of what's going on. All the different shows across the country. I kind of put a list together, and then it tends to get a little out of order as I add ones in. So it looks like May 15th, which is this weekend, you've got the Red Rock Retreat in Moab, Utah. And then I'm showing May 23rd, the Community Built Trucks, which is in Lebanon, Tennessee. That's Simple C10 putting that one on. Then it looks like we go to June 6th, C10s at the Lake, and that's in Hawkins, Texas. Hawkins, Texas, C10s at the Lake. I know there's a couple C10s at the lake. Okay, so we went from that one, May 23rd, C10s at the Lake on June 6th. On June 13th, you've got Square Body Day in Lincoln, Montana. Now, just because it says Square Body Day, that's 47s through 98, Lincoln, Montana. Hit them up. You've got it's Square Body _day, and I'd love to get up to that one of these days. So Square Body Day, June 13th. All right, now it looks like I've got July. Make sure I'm not skipping. 11th. Okay, so here's our other C10s at the Lake. This one's in Vancouver, Washington. And their IG, I believe, is C10s at the Lake _2026. So how the hell we're going to keep all that? I guess one's in Pacific Northwest and one's in Texas. Then we've got July 18th, C10 Club Oregon Family Affair. Then July 24th and 25th, the Slowdown, San Luis Obispo. And that takes us through July. So we'll hold tight there. Well, August 14th and 15th, you've got Snake River Truck Show, Idaho Falls, Idaho. August 15th, C10's on the Capitol, Olympia, Washington. That's Todd and Jen Manchester, C10 Club, Washington. Yeah, okay, there you go. That's through August. So you've got a lot going on in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, Idaho, Washington, Montana, Vancouver, Washington. So there is a lot going on. Obviously, they got that primo weather. So hopefully that helps out. And we're going to get into Andrew telling us a little bit about Key Savvy. What a cool system. I think we need it, unfortunately. Escrow kind of for trucks and classics to have a middleman to protect the buyer and the seller, really. So appreciate Andrew sitting down and chatting it up with us. Hope you guys have a great week. If you're headed up to Moab, safe travels, and I hope to see you guys up there. I do have another pod that I'll get out probably when I get back. It's kind of a filler pod. I'm going to throw it out. When I was dealing with all the SEMA stuff, Brian Ashley helped out, and he got me another pod, so I need to get that one out. And then I'll probably do interviews while I'm up there in Moab. I always enjoy doing that and talking to people about their builds. So probably 320 or 331 will be Moab, and then I'll get you that bonus episode as well. All right, guys? Okay, have a great week. Stay out of trouble. Do what you do. Appreciate you tuning in. Late. All right. What up, C10 Nation? Back behind the mic. I've got Mr. Key Savvy. Who? Andrew Crowell from Key Savvy. And if you had the chance to listen to Chris from Classic 4x4, he does mention Key Savvy. And we need this. So I'm stoked to have you on and talk a little bit about what I perceive as kind of an escrow situation. People are familiar when they buy a house, but not necessarily an automobile. And with the way that we are connected across the world now, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Bring a Trailer, so many different options of automotive buying and purchasing. I think Key Savvy's got a place. So we're stoked to have you on, Andrew. Thanks for taking time to sit down with the C10 Nation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have a little chat.
So tell us a little bit about Key Savvy. How'd you get this thing started? What's your background? And what would you love for the classic automobile community out there to know about Key Savvy?
Yeah, I'll share a little background. So I'm actually a software engineer by background. And I've been in automotive most of my career, but developing software for cars like stability control and ABS, engine controls and things like that. And then started to move more into this space in 2015. So I was actually the chief technology officer at a company called Tread. That was another startup here in Seattle where we're based. And Tread was a marketplace that kind of competed with Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace eventually when that became a thing. And we learned a lot about the problems with private party sales. people, that were shopping on our marketplace and selling cars, they're showing up to a parking lot with like a bag of cash and they're signing the title on the hood of the car. And like everybody would go away with their fingers crossed, hoping that they did it right. And all sorts of bad things would happen sometimes, whether it was malicious intent or not. And so we built a platform for our own marketplace to solve these problems and make it so people could safely pay for the vehicle and transfer the title and do all those things. And we learned a lot in doing that. And it was a really hard problem to solve. That company was actually acquired by AutoTrader, and it became part of what's now called AutoTrader Private Seller Exchange. And then the tech team from Tread, which was me, now my co-founder, another one of our senior engineers here, we came back together in 2022 to found KeySavvy. And the whole idea was, let's not be a marketplace, let's build PayPal for cars. And deliberately let marketplaces do what they do really well, build communities, connect buyers and sellers. But then once a deal is ready to happen, we can be there to be this trusted platform that moves money securely and quickly and easily, moves the title, right? Because that's why you can't use PayPal for something like this, right? Even if you pay their 3% protection fee, they explicitly exclude vehicles from protection because of the title. There's so much complexity there. Co-owners and the seller might have a loan, right? Like there's so many things that make it more complicated. And so that's what we did. So, we've got great partnerships now. We've got partnerships with Cars and Bids and Hemmings and Haggerty, a number of others that are coming down and all sorts of different segments of the market. We sell all sorts of stuff, classic cars and commercial trucks and you name it. If it's got a VIN and a title, then you can transact with KeySavvy basically.
So walk us through some of those struggles when you think about meeting back up with your co-founders in 2022, what you guys knew from Tread and what you were able to present. You guys are sitting in a room, you're a software engineer, you've got a lot of background, and you're sitting here throwing darts and you're like, okay, what do we got? What's our number one challenge to kind of work through?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the number one challenge is distribution of the service itself and getting people to know about us, that we exist, because it's such an infrequent purchase for most people. I think for you and I, we're car enthusiasts, right? Like we probably buy and sell cars way more often than, at least my wife would say, than I should. And so for me, it's a little more of a frequent purchase, but for most people, it's every 5 years, right? Or
hey, Andrew, she's always telling me you're buying way too much stuff.
Yeah, I have that. That's a weekly conversation. So it's really hard to when you're the utility of KeySavvy is adds value so late in the journey. Being present for the buyer and seller at the right time is really hard. We're never going to be buying Super Bowl ads and hoping that when somebody 3 years from now is shopping on Facebook Marketplace or Hemmings or something, and they're going to remember oh yeah, I saw that, billboard when I was driving down 405. That's just not going to happen. And so these partnerships with marketplaces and lenders and these things, that's super critical for our business. So I think that's the number one challenge, right? That we'll kind of probably always have. But in terms of the product itself, the number one challenge is moving money fast enough to compete with cash. Because the nice thing about cash is I hand it to you and you've got it in your hands now and you've got it. And sure, there are some counterfeit concerns and things like that. It's hard to get cash nowadays, in this quantity. Especially a lot of people use online banks now, so it's harder to kind of do it the old way. Cashier's checks are really easy to forge, but that's kind of what we're competing with from a transfer of funds standpoint. And so that's challenging, right? So we've invested a lot of R&D into building our own payment rails so that we can move money really, really fast, get sellers paid fast, help buyers pay on weekends when they want to be doing these types of transactions, right? Banks are closed. So like making sure that we can provide a really good customer experience in for what is a really complicated transaction.
Well, I love to hear you say that you're worried or you're thoughtful and mindful about the speed of it, but I would assume my biggest takeaway from what you provide is more of the security. So it's like I'm not necessarily worried about it. I get that we're in a world that's moving so fast and the guy's got his money and he wants to buy his truck or car that he's wanting. But to me, the level of protection because of the scams that you hear about, um, and we can bump over to issues that might happen where somebody might not be happy with what they receive and so on and so forth. I'm sure there's levels there where you have some discrepancies, but I just think the security of it, where unfortunately the world we live in, again, this isn't, Papa just going down to buy the old farm truck from, the McGillicuddy family. This is people connecting across the world. Everybody's on Facebook Marketplace outside of their own region. I mean, I get guys that are texting me all the time like, hey, I just bought this from this area. I need a tow truck or I need a hauler. I need this. So there's enough juice there or demand that people are looking across, state lines, if you will, and to know that there's the security there. And one of the best examples I have, this is very recent. Well, I've got two for you that just happened to me personally. Well, one's personally, one's to a friend. Today alone, I'm dealing with bank transfer situations. So a check didn't clear, and I've got a great rapport with the sender. So we're on the phone already, and I'm like, hey, just wire it, right? So wire the money versus a check. Okay, so that's one thing. But another thing is I've got a really good friend who was in a divorce. She took possession of the vehicle. I don't know how that worked, why she got it over him. He wanted it back. So he negotiates a buy with her and they come to terms. But man, they can't figure out who's going to jump in the water first. So it's a control issue to where he doesn't want to give her the money and she doesn't want to give him the truck. And they're at this crossroads of this thing almost not happening. And I literally told him, bro, get on Key Savvy.
Yeah.
that will give her the reassurance that you're not screwing her and she's not screwing you, and she gets her money, you get your truck. And I think I'm like, dude, it's like $99. I mean, you can break it down for us, but I'm like, this is money well spent to make sure that you're not getting hosed, she's not getting hosed, everybody's happy. So couple scenarios for you.
Yeah. I think the security of the transaction is just table stakes, right? It has to be there. And you're right, like for vehicles that are purchased out of state and you're shipping it, the speed is a little bit less of a concern. I'm thinking, more like the broader market, people are meeting in person. It needs to be really fast. But when it's out of state, and then a lot of these enthusiast vehicles like C10s and so on, F100s, right? You're not often going to find what you're looking for within a 30-mile radius. There, people are looking nationwide, worldwide, sometimes importing things. And then there is a lot more just time that's natural to the transaction anyway. So the speed doesn't matter as much. And then the security becomes even more important. I think security is top of mind in all of these transactions. And it just has to be something that we, put our guarantee on, in keeping money safe, making sure we're able to move the title appropriately to the new buyer. So yeah, that scenario, with the divorced couple, is a great example of like needing a middleman, basically, right? usually the term middleman brings to mind like negative connotations, but like there's a lot of value in a trusted middleman that can be there to kind of mediate a transaction and make sure certain conditions are met on both sides, right? And like that's exactly what we do.
Yeah, and I mean, they're obviously talking, and it worked out. To be honest with you, he showed up to the truck show we just had with it, and 2 days before he got it. So I was very. Good. I mean, this has been a long process for him, but yeah, so it worked out. But I think that's the key, is to know and let people know that there's a security issue there. Now, what about if you have somebody who is there legal recourse where somebody might not go look at a vehicle, they buy a vehicle, and then the inspection isn't quite what might have been? You know, do we have a week, 2 week protection, or because that seems to be a problem where the example I'll use, you're in the Pacific Northwest, so you might see some rust, but in Arizona, and I love this scenario because it's happened to me. A guy sells me a truck. I think it's a 7 out of 10. It shows up, it's a 3 out of 10. Well, we kind of get into it, and he's like, yeah, well, your level of rust and my level of rust. And it's like, bro, rust is rust. So it's funny how maybe, in the Midwest, their level of what they think is a 7 is my 3. And what I always tell people is you got to get on a plane. You got to ask for a gazillion photos and videos. Yeah, I recently, last year, I think I got on a plane and looked at a vehicle. The guy picks me up at the airport in the vehicle. And I said, literally get in the vehicle. And I'm all, hey, let's just go eat breakfast and have some beers. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm all, I'm not going to waste your time. Like, we're done. This is not even close to what you are saying. 100%. I'm like, no, I'm just like, no, this was the best $1,000 in the waste of a day that I could have spent, because what he was asking for the vehicle and what I would have paid him for the vehicle, I literally said, we're not even going to negotiate. Like, we're so far off.
We're so far.
No, let's just turn this into me enjoying the weather. You buy me breakfast for my time. I think we had
salvage this.
Yeah, I think I had breakfast burritos that were very good, and I probably drank a couple Coronas or Modelos, and I said, take me back to the airport. We're good. It was a great turnaround, and I don't regret it, because that was just way not no, it wasn't, the money wasn't where it was. And so for you guys, the buyer, you have your own due diligence you have to do. And if you don't do that, then I think you have to reverse engineer it and say, well, what could I have done better? And if you're dropping anything that's 5 figures or more, then would you say, and another thing too, is we're so connected now that you can usually reach out to somebody and say, hey, put some eyes on this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, find somebody local that can go look at it for you or pay for an inspection. But even those sometimes are of varying quality. And so the best is to go see it yourself, right? For sure.
Hey guys, are you thinking about swapping out your old motor for a more reliable LSLT-based power plant? Behind each PSI harness, you get over 10 years of experience in the business, online tech support, phone support, and harnesses made in the U.S. That's psiconversion.com. Have you guys heard of Doja Mat? Retro mats done right. You know those classic floor mats we all grew up with? Well, Doja Mat has created that same classic style with all of your favorite slogans. Dent side, bowl nose, 4x4, high boy, bump side, truckin', with the horns, of course, and so much more. Check them out at dojamat.com. That's DOJAMAT.com. Dojamat.com. Retro mats done right. You've heard me talk about my gauges, Dakota Digital. I love them. Dakota Digital has the best gauges for our trucks. These kits are complete with sensors for any engine. They look just like the stock clusters, but have all the technology you'd expect from Dakota Digital. It's like a modern truck, but even better in a classic. Dakota Digital is absolutely the best in aftermarket gauges, so check them out at dakotadigital.com. dakotadigital.com.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, find somebody local that can go look at it for you or pay for an inspection. But even those sometimes like are of varying quality. And so the best is to go see it yourself, right? For sure. And we don't really add a lot of guarantees. That we're very clear. Like, we're going to make sure you get a title to this vehicle. And we're going to make sure the seller gets paid. But if it doesn't have any wheels on it, like, we never see the car, right? So we can't really make any kind of guarantees around the condition. And we're really clear to buyers. It's up to you. You know, when you click the button, when this vehicle's picked up, it's yours, right? So like, make sure it meets your satisfaction. It is up to, you know, it's what you expect. Like, do that before. The time to inspect is before. So go check it out in person, or get somebody to go look at it, right? That's the best thing to do.
What we need to do is we need to team up. This is be a lot of work, and there's, you know, 48, the lower 48, and then you pick within reason X amount of shops that are certified shops, and you can take your vehicle there. That vehicle's gonna get put on a lift. It's gonna get inspected. There's going to be a minimum of 100 videos, photos, media, and a run drive test and a check sheet that says here's what this third party private person sees and protects this person. And then because that becomes the problem. I mean, I think guys are too cheap. You know, there's not a lot of room for that to spend that extra money. But it's funny when you say, would you spend the extra money? And when you get hosed, you're like, well, I wish I would have spent that $500 or spent that $1,000,
Yep.
you know, in perspective. And horrible analogy, but is in trading cards, which is like PSA is your elite grader of cards. If you send a card that you think is worth $1,000, then your price might be $25 to grade it. But if the card is better than you think, and it ends up being let's say it's a $4,000 card, then they charge you more. So that $25 fee goes up because they're like, hey, this card is a $4,000 card. It graded at a level 9. And so now your bill to get the card back is $89. So they jack up the money. So it might be one of those deals, you know, where it's like, hey, this car is worth this much money. It's a percentage, but I don't know. It's tough, you know, even when you have people that go, I mean, look at that $1 million Lincoln that just sold at Barrett in January. I mean, that thing was shoddy. You know, there was a lot of videos and stuff. So, yeah, it was not a good thing, but
trading card example blows my mind. Sorry, I'm distracted by that now, because is that a pretty misaligned incentive where you know, like, what if it's not actually worth $4,000? What if they just misgraded it and then they're
so you have to. It's very complex, and we could go. My audience is like, oh my god,
different podcast.
Well, yeah. It is, but there's maybe there's a handful of listeners that have trading cards, but I grew up loving cards. I kept all my cards. COVID hits, everybody wants their cards graded. And now there's just unfortunately a lot of stuff out where Andrew sends in his, you know, you being Pacific Northwest, your 1991 Ken Griffey rookie. It might be an 89. And there's a guy that I think he did send in a Ken Griffey junior rookie. And he sent it to like 6 different companies, and he sent it to one company twice, and it got different grades every time. So that the level of grading is really hard. They need to have more AI, I think, involved in grading and different things like that. And I have a buddy of mine who's way into cards, and he's had signatures that he was a kid at, let's say, the Phoenix Suns game or a pro game, witnessed the signature, and then the grading card will say it's unauthenticated, it's not real or something, and he's like, it's real because I was standing right there. So it gets to be a little crazy, but the bottom line is cards are not worth any money, or they definitely are reduced a collectible unless it is graded, because people just won't. You could take a flyer on it. You could take a flyer and say, all right, I think it's going to grade for this, but it's definitely a gamble when it comes to that. But I digress on collectibles of cards. That I'm really not into that anymore. I just had all my cards when I was a kid, and then I thought, man, I should really get them graded, see what I got. The other big thing, and to just get off this soapbox, but I always use this for example, is a level 10. So let's just use a Jerry Rice rookie. It's a very hard card to get a level 10 in, and they have data on how many there really exist that have been graded. But a level 10 during COVID, I think it was like 90 grand. Let's just say it's worth 70 now. Stuff came down. But if you think a level 10, let's just say it's 70, 75 for a Jerry Rice rookie, 86 Fleer, what would you think a 9 would be worth? If you don't know cards or collectibles.
So a 10 is 70,000. I'd say, maybe close to half, maybe 40,000, something like that.
Maybe $4,000.
Really? So it's like a 90% drop.
Yeah. So people don't. So you think, oh, I've got a 9, but people want that 10, man. They don't. They're not going to waste their time. And so, and then the other thing is that the number goes up so high that there's a lot more in the wild. So that the level of a 9 or an 8 is readily available, whereas the scarcity of a 10 and that demand goes way up. So cards from that perspective are pretty crazy when you see, the guys that, the drop down of a 10 to a 9, 9 to an 8, 8 to a 7, and you get some 0.5s too. So it's pretty crazy. But going back to collectibles, I do think that these cars, it's tough when you think about where you're at and what you provide. And again, you just have to have the security. I even have a deal where a guy I was trying to send guy money through Western Union. So I'm going to send this guy money, Western Union, and he wants to use Western Union. And then he ended up selling it from under me, had my money. But then he did give me my money back. And I actually think he probably gave me my money back because I have a big following. I was like, dude, I'm going to blast you. Don't make me blast
you're going to get slammed. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different situations that by using your service. Now walk us through the service. What happens? So let's say that I have the car and Andrew's going to buy the car for me, and pick whatever car you in your fleet that you haven't bought yet, that your wife keeps complaining to me about, that you keep buying cars.
Yeah, so let's say you're selling like a 92 turbo Miata, just as an example. And you might, so you find a buyer for that vehicle, right? They're not local. Let's say you sell it on like Cars and Bids or something, or BAT. Or maybe that's a bad example. Like you sell it on Facebook Marketplace. And so the seller adds their car to our site, and we don't need a ton of information. Like we don't need pictures of the car and like service records, things like that. That's all separate. We only care about the stuff for moving funds and title, right? So you just add your car with the VIN. That's pretty much the only thing.
So I put in 1992 Miata. I put the VIN number in, and then is there a way for you guys to run a thing on that says, hey, this is a titled car that belongs to Ronnie in Arizona, and you see that first and foremost? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we're a licensed dealer. So we have permissible use to get some data from the DMV, because what's happening when we facilitate a transaction is we actually buy the car from the seller and instantly resell it to the buyer. So that means if you're the seller, from your perspective, you're actually selling the car to KeySavvy. And that gives us a lot of capabilities to verify that you're the legal owner of that car. If you have a loan, we can pay off your loan and receive the title. Just like if you traded that vehicle into a dealer, it's like literally the exact same process. And then the dealer puts it on their lot. They sell that car to somebody like 30 days later. We're doing the same buy and sell transaction. We just do those transactions kind of simultaneously. And fully remotely. Like, we're not taking possession of the car. We don't have a fancy parking lot with like a big sign out front, right? And so,
how do you guarantee
that?
How do you guarantee? Sorry to interrupt you on that. How do you guarantee that guy, that you didn't overpay for that car, and that seller will be buying that car? Is that a situation? I'm sure there's stopgaps in there for you guys for that.
Yep. Yeah. Basically, we don't buy the car until we sell it at the same time. So there's never a time where we own the car. Our ownership of the vehicle is like a legal fiction, if you will. It's like a split second that we technically own the car. So we're in the chain of title, and from the buyer's perspective, they bought the car from KeySavvy.
Do you get the money? Does Andrew's money clear first? Because you would want to make sure that, okay, so Andrew's money clears a nanosecond, we're good, boom, sell it to ourselves, and then pitch it over from Ronnie to Andrew.
Yeah, basically. Yep. So we collect the funds from the buyer. We make sure that's legit. So that's our responsibility. We collect the title from the seller if they have their title. Right? If they have a loan, it's a little different. And then when the vehicle changes hands, so either it gets loaded on a truck or the buyer and seller meet, buyer hits a button on their KeySavvy dashboard that says, yep, just picked up the car. That's when we initiate funds rolling out to the seller. And sometimes that can be really fast. Like, most sellers will link a bank account with us so that they can get paid via direct deposit. And most of the time, they'll link an account that supports real-time payments. And so we can drop $100,000 into a seller's bank account on like a Saturday night in, under a minute. It's pretty cool.
Wow. So when you say titles, I would assume that, like in Arizona, we've went to a lot of digital, which is just crazy to me because I always want to hold my title. That's probably a benefit for KeySavvy.
Yeah, it is. It helps in some cases. It can add complexity. Like if you're selling to someone in a state that doesn't, there isn't a lot of like interstate connections with these electronic titles. So what ultimately ends up happening is the state still prints a paper title and sends it to us, or that sends it to the seller or something like that. So there can be some advantages. There can be some disadvantages. Arizona is actually a really interesting state for another reason too, because you probably know this, but if you buy a car from a private seller, you don't have to pay sales tax when you register it at the Arizona DOT, right? But if you buy from a dealer, you do have to pay sales tax. And so this actually kind of sucks for us because our process converts what would be a private party sale to a dealer sale. In every other state except for Arizona and Nevada, that's totally fine. It has no impact on the tax. A little bit in Illinois, but not much. But in Arizona, it's a big impact to the tax burden on the buyer. So as a result, we actually don't do a lot of transactions in Arizona and Nevada because we would erase that tax benefit for buyers. And so, yep. So Arizona and Nevada are quite unique in that sense.
Listen, Andrew, you're smart. Tax. I mean, how are you not doing this through your Mesa location? How are you not setting it up? Because that's a huge deal, right? For the audience out there, I did not know that it was limited to Arizona and Nevada. I would think that Montana and Oregon, because they don't really have a sales tax, but
right. But then it applies to both dealer and private party, and so there's no, we don't change anything. It's just there's no sales tax regardless of how you buy the car, and so it's fine. It's just those two states where they tax dealer sales, but they don't tax private party sales.
Yeah, but what I mean is, okay, so because it's going through you become the dealer. You're having to add the tax on, and so that's why you're saying you're even if you were here in Mesa, it wouldn't matter because, so for the audience, he's in the Washington Pacific Northwest. They have an office here in Mesa where, up the road from me, where I'm from. So you're saying, hey, once I would almost, I get it, because I get that you're a dealer and it has to touch you. It's just that there's got to be a way around that, because that's a big chunk of money that's a big thing for people to buy an Arizona used vehicle, is that there is I think it is less and less because people they don't want to deal with people anymore. So, I never thought about that, but I get it. You're like, what's the workaround on this?
Yeah, the workaround is doing a more traditional escrow process where we're not in the chain of title. So like we're not converting it to a dealer sale. That's basically the workaround, but there's a lot of complexity there.
Oh, totally.
It's not as easy as it sounds. You have to it's a separate license. So yeah, as a result, we just don't do a ton of sales in those two states. But every other state, it's not an issue. So.
So.
Yep.
If I have my paper title, are you waiting to get that paper title, or somebody scanning it and then you're getting the ball rolling, and then, hey, the title is then put in the mail, and you're like, hey, this is, because I could see it being a little bit of a process to get that. You have to get it. Is it at the Mesa office or is it at the Seattle office to get the actual title?
It's either. Right now, it's mostly the Mesa office. We actually just expanded our office in Seattle to support the title processing work that we do here. So pretty soon, more stuff will actually be going through this office. But it's kind of both. So we'll get pictures of the title early on before the buyer even pays for the vehicle, because we want to make sure that the seller is legit, that they own the car, that we have a path to obtain the title for the buyer before the buyer pays for the car. Because we don't want to get in a scenario where the buyer sends us a wire transfer for $80,000 or something, or any amount, $10,000. And then we find out, oh, hey, the seller this vehicle's co-owned and the co-owners, moved to, Nigeria or something. There's no way they're ever going to sign the bill of sale, right? And then we have to refund the buyer. That's a bad experience for the buyer. So we do a lot of upfront due diligence using images of the title or reaching out to the lien holder, if they have a loan. But we don't pay the seller until we get the title, if they have their title. And so what happens is, as soon as the buyer is able to submit payment, we give instructions to the seller on how to sign their title. And they're really detailed instructions that are specific to their state, specific to their transaction. So we show them how to sign the title correctly so they don't make mistakes, and then send it to us. And then once the vehicle's picked up and we've received the title, that's when we initiate the seller's payout. Because otherwise, if we paid the seller in advance, then we want to be able to guarantee to the buyer that we get them the title. Yeah.
What does that usually take? 14, 2 weeks? Is that or a week? What do you?
Depends
on how long it takes to get that title.
Yeah, and most sellers send it to us via 2-day or overnight shipping. Overnight's it's kind of too expensive, to be honest. It's not really worth it most of the time. But typically it's 2-day shipping, and so we'll get it pretty quickly. And we're checking this stuff in every single day and reviewing all the mail that comes in really quickly. So typically the same day that we receive it, the seller gets a notification, and the buyer too. We let them know that we've received the title.
Okay, here's one for you. A lot of these guys, they don't want a key savvy title. They want the original paperwork. How do you work through that?
Yeah, so we have verified that by putting ourselves into the chain of title, we don't impact the number of owners that show up on a Carfax or anything like that, because it's just a dealer transaction. There's no, it's like a dealer reassignment. So, cars can change hands. If you trade your vehicle into a dealership, they might sell that car to another dealer. They might sell that car to another dealer after that. Those are not all separate owners that show up on the Carfax, right? Carfax and AutoCheck are both good about understanding what a registered owner is, because every dealer in the chain is not registering the vehicle in their name. In most cases, what we're delivering to the buyer is the original title. It'll have us reassign, as the owner at some point, but then assigned to the buyer. But it's just written in on the title. So most of the time they are getting the seller's title. But in some circumstances, we do give them a brand new title that has Key Savvy on the front of it. But typically that's to the buyer's benefit, because a scenario might be the owner of the vehicle is deceased, and we had to collect a certified copy of a death certificate and power of attorney and all these like other documents to prove ownership. It's if the buyer walked into the DMV with this like stack of papers, the likelihood of them just getting rejected by whatever DMV agent they happen to hand that stuff to is pretty high, because it's complicated, right? It's like there's a lot of action there. And so in a scenario like that, sometimes we will retitle the vehicle. We still don't show up as a registered owner, but we'll retitle it to basically simplify that transfer to the buyer. So now when they go to the DMV, they've got a clean, brand new title that's assigned to them, rather than all of this like crazy stuff with a death certificate and whatnot, and all this other documentation. So usually it's to the buyer's benefit.
Well, for the audience, if you can, before the guy dies, try to get the family to do a duplicate title. And I've done that because I want those original titles. I want that part of the lineage of the vehicle. Now, with that being said, I have another vehicle that I own. The individual died. I've reached out to the family. I can't get a hold of anybody, and I'm sitting on a vehicle that I don't drive that much. And when I do, I'm somewhat illegal because I'm not giving that title to the DMV. I will not do it. I'm not giving that title. I have a 1982 Wyoming title that I'm not going to give to the DMV so they can just throw it away. It's dumb.
Yeah, they just trash it. They print a new title, right? They trash it, and that's it.
Yeah, so I might do an abandoned title on this vehicle. And for the audience, if you don't know what that is, I can either do a bonded title or I can do an abandoned title, and they'll just come out and say, yeah, this vehicle's been sitting here for 6 months and the owner's dead. I've reached out to the family multiple times, and but I'm not giving up that original title. So if you can, try to get a duplicate title made. The duplicate goes to Key Savvy or the DMV, and you get to keep the original paperwork, because that sucks if you don't have that, and it's just a waste. You're like, no, I hate that when people do that. Don't just go take, even if you are finding the barn find, keep that paperwork. I don't know. I love the paperwork, so I guess I geek out on it. And at the big, you're in the business of protection. I'm in the business of having cool shit, and we just have to formulate that together, because it does create a problem of ownership and title transfers and so on and so forth.
And it's really interesting to hear that perspective too, because we want to.
Somebody's doing some labor in the background there.
Yeah, I just heard that too. I have no idea.
We got
what's going on.
some drywall sawing going on.
This is a really new office. We just moved into this office like a week ago, and I think they are like doing some work on it, which is perfect timing. But yeah, like it's interesting to hear your perspective, like on the collector side of things, because like we need to work together to make sure that we're able to transfer, do what we do, but also like maintain the value of the car and the paperwork and these things.
Vintage Air. 50 years, 1976 to 2026, San Antonio, Texas. Whether your truck had AC or not, Vintage Air has a solution for you and your project. Their Gen 5 SureFit kits feature new, larger blowers, OEM-style injected molded cases, full electronic slide controls, replacing older cables, allowing for smooth slide functions when changing flow and temp. And that, my friends, is why Vintage Air has been in business for 50 years. VintageAir.com. USA1Industries.com. your square body source. Used them for my SEMA build. I've been pimping out their dashes for so long, 10 plus years. And people would always ask me, where's the best dash pad? USA One Industries, USA One Industries, without a doubt. So the team over there has been so supportive to me, my build. I get on their website, their process, it's easy, it flows. I can know what parts, and sometimes, honestly, I'm not even sure what parts I need, but when I go through the website, it kind of cues my mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should buy that. Oh yeah, I need that. It was extremely helpful. I got 2 large shipments when I was doing the Big Sky Bonanza build, and it saved me. It really did, to know, oh yeah, I'm glad that I ordered that. So when you're going through a big build, think USA One Industries. Great support, fast shipping. Everything came just as I needed it to. And honestly, their packaging and their labeling was great. So I would be going through packages and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is this grommet. Oh yeah, this is this hardware. So support those guys, USA1Industries.com. And we appreciate all their support. Check them out, guys. 73 to 91. You need it. They got it. They ain't got it. You don't need it.
But yeah, like, it's interesting to hear your perspective, like, on the collector side of things, because like we need to work together to make sure that we're able to, transfer, do what we do, but also like maintain the value of the car and the paperwork and these things.
I've even told the people at the DMV, I'm like, you can write void on the back. I don't care. But I'm not giving you this title. Like, and they're just like, and they can't even fathom, like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
you know?
oh yeah.
And I'm just like, this piece of paper is older than you. Like, this goes with the vehicle. I want this as part of the vehicle's history, and I don't want to give it to you. And they're just like, well, and they can't think outside the box, and those days are over, I mean, like I said, about 3 years ago, they stopped giving us titles, and you're like, unless you want it, and I'm just like, yeah. What do you mean I need a title in my possession? I'm not giving you a title. That's crazy. But I get it. It's the evolution of the digital perspective. Unfortunately, I guess I don't trust them. First of all, I don't trust the DMV. I want my title. So
it's really cool to see those super old titles. I should check and see like what the oldest one is we've ever received. I'm pretty sure we've got titles that are like probably 50 years old, 60 years old.
So
maybe. I think we've seen some really old ones, which is pretty cool because they've changed a lot since then. Titles don't. Well,
let me give you a story. So this is a 68, but I have a 72 that I bought from the original owner. And when she gave me the title, I have it, and I'll send you a picture of it. When she gave me that title, I was used to, in Arizona, the titles now are like 8.5 by 11, right? It's just a piece of paper. It has no character at all. And at my time of buying, which would have been like my original title, let's just say it's an 89 to 95, they were like, I don't know, maybe they were like 7 by 8, maybe. So I go to buy this truck from her, and she gives me this title, and it's almost like a recipe card. It's pretty small. Like it, I don't even think it's 4. I'm gonna say it's 4 by 5, and she has it in the envelope and everything. And she was the original owner from the dealership. And I said, this isn't the title, because I'm looking for that little brown piece of, like, in Arizona, we have all these little Arizona little birds and hieroglyphs and stuff like that. And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? This isn't the title. This is the title. So that was my first exposure to the original little mini Arizona title. And now I think I do have 3 of those titles with vehicles that I have. And then, like you said, it's changed over the years. Man, I do have a title book too, but here's a title right here. I just picked this one up. So this is, let's see what this one is. This one's pretty old. So yeah, this one is, this gives you some of the Arizona. So this one, let's see
what year is that?
I just want to see when this was issued. So this is the before they went to the big piece. Let's see if this hasn't. This is a 1963 truck, and it was first registered. It says 1 of 63. List price was $2,600. I just wanted to see if it had a list date of when this title came out. It should have
an issue date. Towards
issue date. Oh, this is a 2012.
Okay,
so this might actually be. So this is even bigger than there was a smaller one than this, but they're bigger than this now. But so that this one was even bigger than what I would call that late 80s, early 90s title, which I probably have a few of those too laying around. Here's a question for you. This might get me in trouble. I don't know. I don't put the title in my name, and I've seen guys go crazy and that's illegal. And like, well, if I'm not until I build the truck, decide if I'm keeping it. I mean, some of them are in my name because I know I'm keeping them.
Yeah.
But this truck is not in my name, and this guy. Now, this is a unique situation because I sold this truck, and now the guy wants to sell it, and he never did put it in his name. So this was sold.
That can be problematic.
Yeah, I have stuff that's super old. This is from 2017.
And it's just assigned, it's an open title, it's not assigned to you?
Well, no, it's no, I don't put them in my name or anything. So yeah, they're
doesn't have your name anywhere on it.
You're gonna
technically
we can't talk about this right now.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to sell it until it's titled in your name, like legally.
Not in Arizona.
It is. Yeah. No, I think in every state you can't, because it's called title jumping. Where
but how do they even know that I'm selling it? And this is good discussion. So from the title jumping, I'm not trying to jump the title. I believe in not putting it in my name so that there's another owner. When you could say, well, you're the third owner, and so
right.
This is a great discussion of the letter of the law. This is your world. Whereas slap Dick McGillicuddy over here, me, I'm title jumping, but I'm not doing it to title jump. I'm doing it to preserve the ownership of the vehicle. To be like, yeah, I don't need to say that I owned it.
And you're not, and the state in this particular scenario, the state's not missing out on any tax revenue per se either.
I'm not driving it. It's not driving.
The reason that title jumping is illegal in, ignoring I understand your reasoning around like preserving the number or minimizing the number of owners that show up in the history. But the reason that it's like a consumer protection thing for most transactions is that if the buyer, let's say somebody buys this car and or some other vehicle from not the rightful owner, right? Because like they're not the person whose name's printed on the front of the title. They sell it to you. You go to the DMV and it's not the most recently issued title, right? There was a duplicate title issued 5 years ago or something that actually supersedes that title. So they get rejected at the DMV. There's no way for you to get a new duplicate title to fix that for the buyer without going back to whoever that vehicle was last registered to. And so this is why title jumping is illegal, because that buyer, maybe they handed you a bag of cash, right? You got paid for a car that you didn't technically own. And now the buyer's like screwed, right? So that's why it's illegal. But I mean, I understand the flip side too, right? Of, well, if I register this car, then it adds an owner to the history. I think like you can probably see like with malicious intent, it could go bad for the buyer. If there's not malicious intent, then but the law is the law is.
Well, I get it, and the law has to be written because people do bad stuff. I just feel like I do own it because I have this piece of paper, but because there could be somebody out there trying to get a secondary title.
The titled owner, whoever's name is printed on that title, they could go to the DMV and get a new title, making that title worthless.
If they knew that I'm still sitting on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny.
Which
So for the
could,
audience, if you know, I gave Johnny G a truck, or we traded it out. Buddy of mine and became Blue Bunny. I bet I had that title for 10 years. So that guy, whoever, Mr. Andrew Keysavvy, he could have easily just said, yeah, I'm going to go find another title. He'd have to come to my house and try to get the truck when it's sitting at my backyard or wherever it was at the time.
Report it stolen.
Yeah, and then I would say, here's my bill of sale that shows that it wasn't, because I always do a bill of sale.
That's super important. That's exactly why the bill of sale is important, because that's your documentation, right?
I just do a bill of sale, an Arizona bill of sale that we sign. This is the VIN. I'm buying it as is, or I'm selling it as is, to protect, both buyer and seller. But it's just kind of like you're just trying to, until they're getting actually built. Now in Arizona, who would have known this would turn into title talk? But in Arizona, you used to be able to just go get a title. Meaning if I bought a car truck from Andrew, I didn't have to show up with it. I didn't have to do anything. I could just say, hey, I want to get this out of Andrew's name. I want to get it in my name. And now they make you get a plate. They make you do all this stuff. And maybe that's because title jumping, I think the way it was explained to me was that because we have a ton of third-party DMV places, and they were like, you can thank your local dealer, because what dealers would do was they were like turning and burning and not paying the state the money. And so there was something there to where because in Arizona, you're like, what a waste of just a plate. Like, I don't need a plate. I'm not driving it. It's sitting. It's not even, it's inoperable. It's just, I bought it from Andrew. It's a project. I just need it. And they're like, nope, you got to register. So some of that stuff, it was just better back in the old days. And now it's just a pain in the ass, and you go through it. And I get that the DMV person is doing their job, but it's tough. So give me a scenario where you've had one where maybe it didn't go quite the way that, it was really a positive for protection. Do you have any that somebody was trying to screw somebody over, or?
I mean, all the time, right? I mean, we do hundreds and hundreds of transactions a month.
That's a great commercial. All the time. Everybody's trying to screw everybody over. Keysavvy is here to make you safe.
It. Yeah, at least half the time we catch it.
Unfortunately, only 8% of shit is good. 92%, everybody's trying to screw everybody out of something. So make sure you have Keysavvy on your side.
Yeah, that's right. that's the takeaway. I mean, what we usually, it's not always like malicious intent, right? It's, I didn't know that I had to get my ex-wife to sign this title because she's on it. I thought that only I needed to sign the title, right? Something like that. I didn't know that like there was actually a new title and this one is not the most recent one. Like they didn't know that there was like a lien on the title. Like people don't even realize sometimes that like matters, right? It's hard that they have to pay off their loan before they can sell the car. People don't know that. And so not everyone does, right? Because like most people don't buy and sell cars all like frequently. And so there's a lot of nuance that is lost. And this is what leads to problems in the private market, is just unfamiliarity with the process. It's complicated, or it can be complicated, and like people just don't do it every day. That's why dealers exist, right? They're professional car sellers. And so like the way I describe what we do is we are a licensed dealer, and we bring to the private market like the good things that dealers do. Like we can issue a temporary permit so you can drive the car legally like right away, right? Just like what a dealer gives you when you drive off their lot. We verify that the seller actually owns the car, and like we're moving the funds securely, right? Like all these things that dealers do really well, but we're not like, tricking you into buying like a warranty for your tires, right? Like things like that. And we don't have a big sales team, so we don't have costs that we have to build into the price of the vehicle, right? It's you're paying what you agreed on with the seller. But yeah, we see a lot of things like that, and it's mostly not necessarily malicious intent, but it's just unfamiliarity with the process. Like, oh, I didn't know that I couldn't like cross out the mileage on my title and then just hand it to the buyer because I wrote it wrong. I wrote the mileage wrong, right? So I'm just gonna like cross it out and write the correct mileage underneath. What that actually voids the title, right? Like that's gonna get rejected at the DMV 100%. And so yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we're catching pretty often.
So let's take it out on this. Talk about money. What does it cost? What are the services, and how does the money go up based upon maybe prospective problems, or hey, a normal transaction's a quick, $100. If we run into problems, it goes up, and who pays all that money?
Yeah. So it's a flat fee for the most part. So you can transact a $200,000 truck and you're going to pay the same as like a $50,000 truck. So we charge the buyer and seller each $99. If the seller has a loan and we'll pay off the loan as part of the sale, we charge the seller another $99 for that. That's basically the whole cost. We do let buyers and sellers choose who pays the fee. So like that's the default split. But a lot of times the buyer will say, hey, look, like, I'll pay the whole KeySavvy fee. I'm buying this remotely. Like I'm getting the most value out of this, right? Something like that. Or maybe the seller, is the one that wants to use it. And so they'll agree to pay the whole fee. So we just let buyers and sellers kind of choose how they want to allocate it on their own. That's generally the whole cost of the service. There are times where there can be additional costs. Like if you want to pay with a credit card, then we'll charge an additional transaction fee because we pay a transaction. We just pass it on. If we get a title in the mail and the seller messed it up and it's like beyond repair, like that odometer example that I gave, then the seller can go get a duplicate title at their DMV, but that's obviously like a hassle. We can get a title on their behalf. We pay a state fee for that, and so we'll pass that fee on. It's under $100. It's not like a crazy cost, and it adds a lot of convenience, for the sellers. They don't have to go to the DMV, so that can be an additional cost. That's pretty much it. If we register the vehicle, which is available in some states, or if you're financing it and your lender requires us to register, we'll charge an additional fee to do the registration. But then you don't have to go to the DMV to register the vehicle. So there's an added benefit there. It ranges, typically it's $150 is what we charge, but it can vary by the state. So
yeah, that's worth every penny. If you guys have sat at your DMV for 3 hours, it's worth every penny. That's why third-party DMV.
Exactly.
I'm surprised we don't have fourth party at this point because you just get so tired of dealing with it. It's insane. So
yeah, send somebody else to stand in line for you.
Oh yeah, that's fourth party. I'm gonna send Louis to stand in line for me at the third party DMV. It's ridiculous. Yeah, or you can just be smart and with your time and your money and use KeySavvy. So, how do they use you? Just keysavvy.com?
Yep. If you're buying from one of our partner marketplaces, then it might be available when you agree on a price with the seller. But if not, then you just go to keysavvy.com and get started.
And for you guys, that's 2 V's, right?
That's right.
So KeySavvy, keysavvy.com. Yep. Remember, 92% of all transactions, somebody's trying to screw somebody.
That's right.
So protect yourself. Protect yourself. All right. I appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you for your time. Good luck with KeySavvy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think it's a good service that's provided out there for the collector cars and people that are buying vehicles. And maybe they're buying them, neighbor to neighbor, and they just want to be protected. I don't know. To each individual situation, there's a lot out there. So to have that level of protection for really, when you look at the money, it's peanuts compared to what could happen.
Yeah. Yep. Potential losses are pretty high. I mean, even a cheap vehicle is pretty expensive, right? So.
Yep. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that real quick. What's your generic range? Do you do new cars too, or obviously I'm coming at you with a lot of old cars?
Right. Yeah, we do everything, but we don't do new cars. Most new cars have to be sold by a franchise dealer, so because it's a little bit different there. So it's only used cars, but yeah, we do everything. I mean, trailers, RVs, motorcycles, old cars that don't even have a title, because not every state issues a title for older cars. But yeah, we support that. And any price range. I mean, we've had people use us for $1,000 sale and all the way up to a $500,000 sale, so or more.
Awesome.
So.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. There you go. Safe travels, everybody. I know everybody's busy with family vacations coming up, and obviously just some killer shows that we have. Some Cars and Coffee, some classic shows, not just trucks. Obviously, you got some Good Guys events, and just a lot going on. It's really a good time. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in. Late.